Welcome back to Get Up. We've reached the NBA's All-Star break. We're going to play a little game called Contender or Pretender. Bobby Marks, Wendy, Kendrick Perkins are going to play it with us. And Wendy, I'm going to start with you. Contenders or Pretenders. Are the Lakers contenders or pretenders?
Can I do both? Can I hedge my bet and say both here? I'm going to say, for the sake of programming, I'm going to say contenders, okay? And why I'm saying that is certainly the impact of Luka in the trade, and certainly when you have LeBron James on your roster, I think you have to put them in the contender category. My concern is this roster is unbalanced. I think when you look at it here, certainly the lack of size, you're going to wind up facing Denver or Oklahoma City, two teams that are definitely going to give you fits as far as some size here. So for me, I'll put them in a contender category, but I'm going to put a big asterisk next to their name.
All right, so you like them, you're in like with them, you're not really in love with them yet. So, Wendy, where do you weigh in on the Lakers being contenders or pretenders?
Well, if they get the right matchups in the playoffs, Matt, their size problems won't really show up. Like, I could see them playing the Warriors in the first round. I think the Warriors would have a hard time dealing with the firepower on the perimeter and wouldn't have the size to offset it. But eventually you're going to see the Nuggets, who have one of the best big men in the history of the game. And then eventually you're going to see the Thunder, potentially both. And they have two 7-footers who are incredibly dynamic. They can do all kinds of different things. I just don't think they're equipped to win, against an array of different opponents. And so that's why I'm going to keep them in pretender status. But I love their mid-range future. I think they'll get a center, get more size in the offseason. I think they're dangerous now. I just can't call them a pretender without a viable center option.
And Perk, we've seen Luka Doncic single-handedly will a team on a run in the playoffs before. So where do you weigh his odds with the Lakers, contender or pretender?
Well, Matt, I didn't hear what Bobby had to say, because when he started off saying there was a contender, I took my earpiece, my LP out my ear, so I didn't hear the
You should have left it in. I hedged my bet, Perk. I hedged my bet.
because I totally disagree with this. There's no way in hell, when you look at this Laker roster, that you could call them legit title contenders. They're not. Right now, look, in the near future, 2-3 years down the line, absolutely, but they have to check the boxes, and one of those boxes is that they need a dynamic roller, a lob threat at the basket. Alex Len, do I think he's a solid backup center in the league? Absolutely. He's not a starter. He's not what Luka Doncic needs. We saw that last year with the athletic bigs and Derek Lively and Daniel Gafford. Luka needs space to operate. He needs a guy that's going to be a lob threat so he could get downhill. They don't have that. Their defense suck on the perimeter. They still need to address those issues. So, no, their ceiling is a second-round exit.
All right, well, they're a contender for the first round of the playoffs, at least for Perk. We'll start there. Gentlemen, thank you. Enjoy All-Star Weekend. It should be fun. It begins tonight in the San Francisco Bay Area, the celebrity game on ESPN. Are the Knicks contenders or pretenders?
With respect, I have to say they're pretenders. Look, they've been so good offensively. Brunson and Towns are having great seasons, but they're 0-5 against the Celtics, Cavs, and Thunder, and I have to honor that. Now, next weekend, Friday in Cleveland, Sunday in Boston. They can start to change the narrative right out of the break. Mitchell Robinson is back soon. Maybe that'll help them. But if they can't beat a team ahead of them in the standings once, how can I think they can do it 4 times over multiple series?
Perk, where do you vote on the Knicks?
Oh, they're contenders. We need to see them hold, though. They need to get Mitchell Robinson back. And, yes, Karl Anthony Towns and Mitchell Robinson can play together. We saw that with Karl Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert because of his ability to be able to stretch the floor. They have one guy on their team, Wendy, that you failed to mention that could be the X factor in any series against those other 2 top teams in the Eastern Conference, and that's OG Anunoby. He's that much of a difference maker when he's on his best game. And I believe when it comes down to a 7-game series, he can be that Drew Holiday, what Drew Holiday was to Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown last year, and what Drew Holiday was to Chris Middleton and Giannis Antetokounmpo when he was with the Bucks.
Bobby, where do you weigh in on the Knicks?
For the guy who said they had the best starting five back in September, I'm going to have to agree with Brian and say pretender. I just think the body of work this year, 11-12 against teams under 500. The team they will probably face in the second round, which is Boston, they've gotten their doors blown off in both games here. And I don't know what their identity is. They're 18th in defensive efficiency, certainly one of the better offensive teams. But until they can prove that they can beat some of these better teams, certainly in the Eastern Conference, either Cleveland and Boston, I have to put them in the pretender category.
Windy, defensively, are they just too big of a liability? I mean, they scored 5 140-point games this year. We know they can score points.
Yeah, the standard is very high. If you watch the way Cleveland and Boston play, you're just going to be stressed on that end a lot. Look, I think that's a 6-game series in either case. The Knicks can beat you with some of their offensive firepower. I just don't think they have enough defensively to win it 4 times and beat them both, which is what they would have to do to win the East.
Yeah, and you mentioned Cleveland. They're one of the best teams, at least right now. They are the best team in the East. So, Perk, this one's for you. Are the Cavs contenders or pretenders?
Hell yeah, they contenders. Look, the Cavs could actually win it all. They have everything. They check all the boxes. They have a dynamic backcourt with Garland and Donovan Mitchell. Evan Mobley is playing great basketball right now under Kenny Atkinson. And the best thing they went out and done, what I've been saying all season long, is they had to address the wing position, the most important position in the NBA. And at the trade deadline, they went out and got DeAndre Hunter from the Atlanta Hawks, a great guy with size, athleticism, that could play both ends of the floor, that's 6'8", 6'9", and very versatile. They addressed the wing position, which they needed to do in order to compete with the Boston Celtics.
All right, Wendy, and you heard him raise the level there. He said that the Cavs are championship-winning caliber contenders. Do you agree?
I agree. I wouldn't have them as the favorite. I think they can beat anybody in a series under the right circumstances. They are an elite three-point shooting team. They are a strong defensive team. Their one weakness was size on the wing. Teams with big wings were giving them problems throughout the year. I don't know if DeAndre Hunter solves the problem, but it certainly addresses it. They are better equipped to defend Boston than they were a couple of weeks ago. I will love to see that play out in a 7-game series.
And Wendy, we saw this early on in the season. We talked about it on SportsCenter. OKC in Cleveland and the caliber of that type of play. You could argue, just based on market size and where they stand, Cleveland is really the representative of that in the East that Oklahoma City is out West.
Absolutely. I think the Cavs have won over a lot of believers. It's interesting to me that the Cavs have seemed to win over believers, whereas the Thunder maybe have not. They have the exact same record. They've played twice. When they played in Oklahoma City, the Thunder blew their doors off in Cleveland. It was a tremendous game that the Cavs ended up winning. It is a definite contender team. They have a superstar player in Donovan Mitchell who can win you a playoff game. They have the size and versatility to match up, and they can beat. If they get hot from three-point range, you are not beating them, and that's going to happen a couple of times in any series.
Bobby, what about you and the Cavs?
No, I'm with the guys as far as contender. And Perk made a great point. Rarely do you see a team that's number one in the Eastern Conference or in any conference at the trade deadline go out and take an aggressive move, and they certainly get DeAndre Hunter in the trade with Atlanta, and he can come off the bench and certainly start with you. I think that was kind of a little bit of an Achilles here as far as addressing a weakness here. But when you have the best offense in the NBA in Cleveland here, I think you have to put them in the contender championship level category here, Matt.
Yeah, they have been fun to watch in the first half of the season as the NBA goes on its All-Star break. And Bobby, I'd like to think I left the most entertaining one for you for our little game of.
Xin chào tất cả các bạn đã đến với kênh YouTube của mình. Hiện tại mình là nhà sáng tạo nội dung về mảng video cắt dán trên nền tảng YouTube. Video ngày hôm nay mình sẽ chia sẻ cho các bạn cách tạo ra video cắt dán của mình. Đây là những sản phẩm của mình tạo ra này. Trước tiên, để tạo ra được những sản phẩm cắt dán tuyệt vời, mình sẽ cần những dụng cụ như sau. Đây là giấy thủ công này. Đấy. Rất nhiều màu sắc nha các bạn ạ. Đây là màu cam này. Đây là màu xanh này.